I'm stood here on High Street E, just a few hundred metres away from Scunthorpe Town Centre. Behind me is the disused and now abandoned original Scunthorpe railway station. It's over a century old and is now an unknown building in the town. It's simply sat here in a rarely used goods yard where nobody takes any real notice of it. But believe it or not, this building, along with the track that used to accompany it, has a relatively interesting backstory, which is what I'm going to be talking about in this video. I'll be talking about the 11-mile route from here to Whitton, otherwise known as the North Lindsey Light Railway. The North Lindsey Light Railway, or NRR for short, was a mineral railway line that stretched from the lovely, picturesque Scunthorpe Steelworks to the village of Whitton on the Humber Estuary. The line was first opened in 1906, starting at Scunthorpe, stopping at Nornby Park, Roxby Landfill and then terminating at Winterton and Thealby, but was then expanded to West Alton Sidings and Wintringham in 1907, and finally to Whitton in 1910. It was opened as a branch of the Great Central Railway, now known as the South Transpennine, with its main priority being to exploit the iron ore reserves to the north of Scunthorpe. It was also built to prevent the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway from invading their territory by crossing the nearby River Trent. There were multiple proposals to further expand the line. For example, the Wintringham to Barton branch. The line would have stopped at South Ferriby and continued on to Barton, where it would have met another branch of the Great Central. The plans were actually approved by Parliament in 1913, but were later abandoned, but apparently nobody told the East Yorkshire Motor Services, as they ended up printing official route maps with the non-existent line already included. There was also a planned expansion from Whitton, which would have ran west, calling it Aldcrow, before terminating here at Burton Stather. This line was actually submitted alongside the Wintringham to Barton branch, but was ultimately turned down due to complications involving the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway apparently owning the land on Wintringham Haven. However, a deal was struck with the general manager of the Great Central, the lovely bearded Sam Fay, with the main conclusion being that the GCR would run the trains and the LMYR would pay for their sidings, a wharf and a chute to be built at the developing port of Wintringham Haven. You may be asking, so what's left of the line? Well, actually, some of the line still sees regular use today, most notably the Roxby landfill site, which is constantly receiving hundreds of tons of household rubbish from the Greater Manchester area. Doesn't smell very nice here. If you look close enough, you can find other evidence of the lost railway's forgotten infrastructure. To name a few, this is what's left of the Winterton and Thealby station. This is the old Wintringham station, which has since been converted into this lovely bungalow. And this is the old Wintringham station master's house, which Theophilus Teal, one of the old tenants that previously lived here, loved so much that when he retired had an almost identical house built just a few hundred metres down the road. While it's good that some of the infrastructure survived, sadly most of the track was removed after the line's closure in 1951. In fact, the only remaining track that isn't in use today is here on the Flixborough Wharf branch, which isn't even part of the main line at all. The rest of the stations and other buildings on the line have since been demolished in order to make way for new infrastructure. This may look like a regular patch of woodland, but it's actually one of the lost and forgotten sites of the aforementioned Nornby goods station. Nothing to see here other than a few trees and rocks, which is more than can be said about the old Whitton station, which is now nothing more than a scarce patch of land behind some houses. The only evidence of its past is the appropriately named Station Road, which now accommodates about 15 homes. They're quite nice, actually. As a side note, Whitton also used to have a small pier which was built in 1865 to act as a stopping point for packet steamers travelling between Gainsborough and Hull, which would have operated 3 days a week. It was demolished just over half a century later in 1921, and all that remains now is the old waiting room and a vague outline etched into the sand which can be seen on Google Earth. Why did the line close? One of the reasons was because some of the stations were too far away from the places they were supposed to serve. For example, the site of the old Winterton and Thealby station is 1.4 miles away from Winterton to the east and a mile away from Thealby to the west. It's pretty much in the middle of nowhere. Why did they build it so far away? Well, originally the line was meant to pass right through the middle of Winterton, but the town felt that they would take customers away from local businesses, so the planners diverted the route in an attempt to serve Thealby and Winterton without passing through either of the villages. It's not like any of that really mattered though. It turned out that not many people used the line anyway, leaving the GCR in hot water about what to do with it. There simply wasn't enough passenger interest to keep it running, and with Scunthorpe Second Station being planned to open in 1928, the line's fate was finally sealed. In 1925, a mere 15 years after the line first opened, the NRR stopped the running of its passenger services. Most of the stations were closed, but the line managed to survive for another 26 years up until 1951, as it was used to transport goods. It was then closed completely, and most of the rail was removed the following year. Ultimately, it all just came down to money. Towards the end of the line's passenger services, there were only 2 trains running per day, as opposed to the original 6 that they had running when the line first opened. Aside from that, a lot of the things that the railway were built for never materialised. For example, the aforementioned station in Whitton. The sole reason the station was built here was to help import goods from the estuary. So when the pier was demolished, there was no real reason to have trains running here. No matter how much the Great Central wanted to keep the line open, it just wasn't financially viable. The North Lindsey Light Railway is one of the most lost and forgotten stories of the area's history, so make sure to join me next time when we'll be taking another look at the ongoing tale of lost Lincolnshire.